everybody. Hey now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new edition of Hot Takes. That's right. I left my vape on my neck. Oh, screw it. We'll just leave it on there. It's all right. I'm one of those guys. I wear a vape on my neck. Yeah, sue me. By the way, Vapor Forge bringing you this part of the show. Y'all know where they're at out there on 280. Go see my boys. They are going to get you hooked right on up. 874-9010. That's the number, 874-9010. If you got questions, or find them online, vaporforge.com. So today going on is the first impeachment inquiry hearing. And as a matter of fact, as of this recording, it is going on right now. And it's had some good moments, and I kind of want to cover some of those for you. And I may even check in live just to see if something's going on, because I'm a radio guy, and I can't help myself. But to open it up, there was a good explanation of this entire scenario of the Biden crime family done by Jim Jordan. He was, I think, maybe the third or fourth person that spoke. You've got Comer, who's the head of the thing. Then you've got ranking member Jamie Raskin, who's the guy that looks like, what's the guy's name from The Office? The main character, Mike, is his name Michael Scott? You remember when he's wearing the bandana? He's got that mean face, that meme? Yeah, that's Jamie Raskin. He's the guy that looks like that. But Jim Jordan made his opening comments. I thought they were pretty good. I mean, he's been on top of this much more than any other representative on Capitol Hill. And I want you to hear Jim Jordan explaining the Biden crime family.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. This is a tale as old as time. Politician takes action that makes money for his family, and then he tries to conceal it. Never forget fundamental facts. Hunter Biden gets put on the board of Burisma, gets paid a lot of money. Hunter Biden's not qualified, fact number 2, to sit on the board. Not my words, his words. He said he got on the board because of the brand, because of the name. Fact number 3, the executives at Burisma asked Hunter Biden to weigh in and help them with the pressure they are under from the prosecutor in Ukraine. Fact number 4, Joe Biden goes to Ukraine on December 9th, 2015, gives the speech attacking the prosecutor that starts the process of getting that guy fired. Those facts, by the way, are consistent with what the confidential human source told the FBI, and the FBI recorded in the 1023 form, the same form that the Justice Department didn't want to let this committee see. And all those facts, all of that was further confirmed yesterday with the information that the Ways and Means Committee released from the whistleblowers Shapley and Ziegler. Here's a communication from Hunter Biden to an executive with Burisma. Devin and I do feel comfortable with Blue Star strategies and the ability of Sally and Karen to deliver. Hunter Biden put Burisma in touch with Blue Star Strategies. What were they going to deliver? Well, that was in a communication released yesterday as well. U.S. officials in Ukraine and in the United States need to express support for Burisma and Nikolai Zlochevsky to the highest level decision makers, the president of Ukraine, the president's chief of staff, and the prosecutor general. That's what they were going to deliver. And were they successful? The Interior Minister confirmed that Zlochevsky is no longer wanted. We won in less than a year communications between the folks at Blue Star and Eric Sherwin, who was Hunter Biden's business partner. Awesome work. Congratulations to you guys. Those are the communications. That's what they got done. And remember, when this happens in October 2016, when the pressure is taken off, the case is dropped against Zlochevsky, this is the second prosecutor. Joe Biden fired the first one. The second prosecutor comes in, drops the charges. That's exactly what they wanted done. And the final step is the Biden Justice Department tries to sweep it all under the rug. They slow walk the investigation. They let the statute of limitations lapse for the most important years, 14 and 15, the Burisma years when all that income's coming in. They try to put together this sweetheart deal and get it past the judge. And we learned yesterday in the search warrant examining Hunter Biden's electronic communications, they weren't allowed to ask about political figure 1. Political figure number 1 is the big guy, is Joe Biden. And they would have gotten away with it all. They would have gotten away with it all except for Two brave whistleblowers who sat in those seats 2 months ago and told their story. And their story has stood up. Two brave whistleblowers and a judge in Delaware who said, we're not going to let this happen. That's why we're here today. That's why this inquiry is so darn important. It's the oldest story in the world, and those are the facts. I yield back.
So he's referring to the IRS whistleblowers that came in front of Congress and were telling them, hey, the Justice Department, basically, we were finding the crimes, and the Justice Department shut us down, said you can no longer investigate this. You can't ask about this other guy. We know it's Joe Biden because he's kind of important, so you can't investigate him, so on and so forth. The good old boy network, if you will. Those IRS whistleblowers were retaliated against, obviously. For doing what? For doing what was right. The stars of the show, and I know you may be asking yourself, well, Andrew, aren't you going to cover the debate? No, not going to cover the kids' table debate from last night. That thing was a joke. I can't believe I spent the 15 minutes that I did watching it. I'm actually ashamed of myself. But, nonetheless, I'm not going to talk about it. The winner was Donald Trump. I explained it all on the radio show. If you didn't hear it, go to AndrewMcLeanWho.com. Look for the Line archive shows. You can watch it there. Byron Donalds, speaking of winners, I think he may have been one of the big winners from today, as he not only laid out what we already knew, but brought in some new stuff that I think a lot of people maybe had not heard about yet in very epic fashion. First of all, I love this guy. I think he's one of the hottest GOP members in the party. He's on the right track. He listens to his constituents, and he looks for the truth. He doesn't try to be in the cool kids club and cover everything up like other GOP representatives do. Listen to this.
I'm going to come to you quickly. A lot of talk about evidence. On the screens in the room, we have an organizational chart from the IRS investigative team that was looking into the business practices of Hunter Biden and his associates. This org chart is from 2014. Now, Mr. Dubinsky, when my former life, I was in community banking, and I'm comfortable with looking at organizational charts. When I first saw this chart, the first thing I thought about was a real estate holding company or a developer, and this is not to demean developers in the great east state of America, but developers typically have multiple companies that float with various business interests and business lines. But the funny thing is that in the business dealings of Hunter Biden, there is no real estate, none at all. So, Mr. Dubinsky, in your professional experience, looking at this organizational chart of business structure, what do you see here?
I see a very complicated structure of entities that are interrelated and would give me concern. If I were an investigator, I would want to know what's going on in these entities, who's behind them, how's the money moving between them, and what is the substance of the transactions? What's really going on here?
Mr. Dubinsky, do you think it's in the interest of this committee that is now in an inquiry phase to actually find out all of the flow of money between these entities and what the purpose was?
Absolutely.
Next slide, please. For my colleagues on the other side, we're going to start talking evidence now. This is now a slide of the organizational chart of the Hunter Biden business companies and with associates from 2018, from the same IRS investigators who were broke down the business structure in 2014. Does this slide cause you the same concern, Mr. Dubinsky?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now let's talk about some more. Actually, one point I want to make on this. Ladies and gentlemen, and I know it's kind of small, so I would love to submit, I will submit all this for the record. I would love my colleagues on the other side to see this. In 2014, one of the key owners was Devin Archer, who did testify and was under deposition under oath by the Oversight Committee. In 2018, Devin Archer is no longer listed, but his wife, Krista Archer, is now listed. Mr. Dubinsky, when you see a situation where ownership interest moves from one spouse to the other, is that a concern of some level of fraud potentially?
I would call it a red flag. That's something I would look at and again, try to get to the bottom of what happened there. Was it just transferred? Was there money behind it? What was going on?
Okay, thank you. Next slide. Now, this is to a text message. This is a text message between, it's going to Naomi Biden. That's what this one is. Hold on, let me get my stuff back. Here we go. Sorry. This is the WhatsApp text message between Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. In this text message, it clearly says, anyway, we can talk later, but you've been drawn into something purely for the purpose of protecting Dad. This is between Hunter Biden and Jim Biden. Last time I checked, the father of Jim Biden and Joe Biden is now passed away. So I'm assuming this is Hunter Biden saying to Jim Biden, the president's brother, that you've been brought in this for the sole purpose of protecting Dad. Miss O'Connor, do you think that this text message would lead this committee to get further information about the business dealings of Hunter Biden and how that actually links to Jim Biden, the president's brother, and why they are so concerned with protecting Dad, a.k.a. Joe Biden, a.k.a. the President of the United States?
Yes.
Thank you. Next slide, please. This is a text message between Hunter Biden and Naomi Biden. And this one is a famous one. Everybody knows this one. This is a famous one that says, I hope you all do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard. But don't worry, unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary. Mr. Dubinsky, if you saw a text message like this in a potential money laundering operation or a potential pay-for-play operation, would you be looking for information related to money going from son to father?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Thank you. Next slide. Oh, this is a fun one. Ladies and gentlemen, this one is from 2018. This is about 4 months before Joe Biden launched his campaign for president of the United States, December 2018. The highlight is, this is a text message between Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden was in a bad way, by the way. He was really strung out. He lost a bunch of money. He needed help. Jim Biden says, this can work. You need a safe harbor. I can work with your father alone. It'll probably take several months and everybody can read the text. Ms. O'Connor, Mr. Dubinsky, if you saw a text message like this between the president's brother and the president's son, wouldn't you be concerned about them trying to give plausible deniability for the president of the United States to not have any knowledge of said business dealings?
It's worth
Gentleman's time's expired, but please answer the question.
it's worth investigating.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that's worth investigating. All the red flags are there. And I don't have to necessarily explain that to you guys, but it's laid out front and center. One more person that had a fantastic day today in laying this all out is Nancy Mace. Now, first of all, the importance of this comes from a place, at least for me, comes from a place of people need to hear this. The Democrats are going to deny it, and the Republicans are going to try to prove it. It's out there. What you have to get this to is the American people. The people need to know. And you're in an uphill battle. Social media helps a lot, but you're in an uphill battle for some of those people that are just going throughout their day and not looking for this stuff, not looking to see what happened. While I was doing the radio show today, Fox News was carrying the hearing. CNN was not. CNN spent the entire debate talking about last night's Republican debate. I call that debate, I'm in a hearing. During that entire hearing, they spent their time talking about last night's Republican debate. CNN. The entire time I was on. They would wait, and every now and then they would cut back over to the hearing and play a clip from a previous time of a Democrat lawmaker trying to make some sort of point, but they obviously provided no context whatsoever, so it made the hearing look like it was positive for Joe Biden. But if you listen to people like Nancy Mace and Byron Donalds, you would have known this was not a good day for Joe Biden.
Representative Raskin, he said in 2019, there's no formal constitutional or statutory or even the House rule for how an impeachment inquiry is to begin. And so it means different things to different people. I don't want to hear another word from the left or anyone across the other side of the aisle about impeachment inquiry. This is complete and total hypocrisy this morning. Today, we're going to bring the facts. Today, we are going to bring the evidence. In 2017, the Joe Biden family teamed up with Chinese company CEFC to make millions off of granting access to Joe Biden. Hunter even arranged for Joe Biden to share office space with the CCP-aligned company CEFC. My Democrat colleagues say none of this is relevant because Joe Biden wasn't vice president while his family did these shady deals. Turns out that's complete and total bullshit. It's a lie. Hunter Biden referred to access to his father as the keys to his family's only asset. Those words are going to come back and haunt Hunter Biden and his family forever. Yesterday, the Ways and Means Committee released an FBI memo on the interview they had with Tony Bobulinski, a former Biden partner in crime. I'll read a bit of that right now. The work conducted by CEFC, Gilliar, Walker, Hunter Biden, James Biden, and Yee over the preceding 2 years was discussed in detail. In particular, CEFC was closing significant investment deals in Poland, Kazakhstan, Romania, Oman, and the Middle East during this period of time. Period of time is in reference to the years 2015 and 2016, when guess what? Joe Biden was vice president. As an aside, Rob Walker, in previous testimony, also confirmed that Joe Biden attended a meeting with the head of CEFC. So now we know CEFC was working with the Biden family while Joe Biden was vice president. And I'll continue reading from Tony Bobulinski's report, which says, and I quote Bobulinski, Hunter Biden and James Biden did not receive compensation because Joe Biden was still vice president during this time period. There is a concern it would be improper for payments to be made to Hunter Biden and James Biden by CEFC due to its close affiliation with the Chinese government. Hunter Biden and James Biden both wanted to be compensated for the assistance they had provided to CEFC's ventures. In particular, they believe CEFC owed them money for the benefits that accrued to CEFC through its use of the Biden family name to advance their business dealings. The Bidens, coincidentally, were paid over $1 million by CCP-affiliated Chinese company CEFC shortly after Joe Biden left office as vice president. Now we know why, because it was back pay. I'm going to show another image. This is a text message between Hunter Biden and Gong Wendong, an agent of CEFC. Hunter says, my uncle will be here with his brother, in all caps, who would like to say hello to the chairman. He goes on, Jim's brother, if he's coming, wants to say hello. His uncle's brother. I wonder who that could be. I can't quite figure it out. Hunter puts brother in all caps, and it doesn't take a genius to figure this out, but since I'm not always dealing with geniuses, and Washington, D.C. has been illustrated today, I'll spell it out. The brother of Hunter's uncle, Jim, is Joe Biden. Why was Hunter so secretive about his father? I'm going to tell you why. It's because Joe Biden didn't want the American people to know he and his family were getting paid millions and millions of dollars from a company closely tied to the Chinese Communist Party. CEFC knew paying Biden family members was bad, so they covered it up. Hunter knew Joe Biden hanging out with CCP businessmen would be a bad look, so he tried to pull a genius move on us with this whole my uncle's brother bullshit. We already know the president took bribes from Burisma. I also want to add, betraying your country is treason. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record this text message between Hunter Biden and Gong Wendong and the FBI memo regarding their interview with Tony Bobulinski, showing Joe Biden's connections to CFC during his vice presidency.
Without objection, so ordered.
Professor Turley, we got 30 seconds. In your experience in reviewing cases of fraud, do people who are conducting legitimate business usually go through these efforts and hoops to keep their foreign entanglements hidden?
Yes, the issue with influence peddling is that it can, in some circumstances, be legal, but it's not something that necessarily is made public. The public does not buy into the idea that you can sell your family brand if it's influence peddling. So what happens with influence peddling is that you often have the commission of crimes that conceal it and to take steps so that it's not public. That may include, but it's not necessarily the reason in this case, but it may include the failure to pay taxes, the failure to register as a foreign agent. And part of the purpose of an inquiry is to see if there is a linkage between those acts and, more importantly, a linkage to the president. Can I briefly respond to the earlier attack? You may have additional questions. I don't want to take your time.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, the gentlelady's over time,
Okay.
but we'll work with you on that because I do think you need to respond to that ridiculous statement. Now, Chair recognizes Mr. Khanna for 5 minutes.
So there you go, Nancy Mace. And so you kind of get the picture of what's going on here. They're laying it out. I mean, in black and white for these people. But what was fascinating about the whole hearing was the responses from Democrat lawmakers and their uncanny ability. I've always said Democrats are stupid, but they're creative. And they came up with a lot of creative ways to avoid talking about Joe Biden. You take AOC, for instance. AOC was highly upset that we were wasting government resources and wasting time on this silly impeachment inquiry, which, like any good little socialist, you love corruption. AOC loves corruption.
The impeachment inquiry, any impeachment inquiry, regardless of party, is an extremely serious matter. Professor Gerhardt, in the impeachment inquiry into President Clinton, were there key fact witnesses that were presented during those proceedings?
They were not in the House.
Mm-hmm. In the Senate, were there any?
There were.
There were in the Senate. Now, in the impeachment, in the impeachment investigations with respect to President Trump, were there key material fact witnesses in the House?
Yes, ma'am.
There were. Are there any key material fact witnesses here today?
No, ma'am.
None. And so we are wasting our time. When we talk about a threshold of an impeachment inquiry, was there a House floor vote that had a majority of members of Congress that opened an impeachment inquiry into President Clinton?
There was.
There was. Was there a full House floor vote opening an impeachment inquiry into President Trump?
In 2019.
Is there one here for this one?
Not for this one.
There is not one here for this one. This is an embarrassment. An embarrassment to the time and people of this country. And I would ask that the chair and I would ask that this committee elevate to the promise of our duties here and comport ourselves with the consistency and practice that is required of our seats and our duty and our oath to our responsibilities here.
You know, when somebody's talking, somebody that's frankly dumb, low IQ people, if you will, when they're talking and they're trying really hard to sound smart, that's what you just heard. Again, give her props on creativity and trying to sound smart. She didn't do a very good job at it, but she tried. You give her credit. She's young and dumb. She got a long career ahead of her. But speaking of dumb, there's a representative that you may not have heard about. Her name is Representative Stansberry, Melanie Stansberry. And I mentioned her on the show earlier today where she was talking about, I just flipped it on in the middle of her deal, and she was talking about Donald Trump's small hands. Again, remember, we're trying to be creative to divert attention away from the issue at hand because they have to pretend like none of this is real. None of these crimes Joe Biden and his family have committed are real. It's all made up by Republicans, conspiracy theories, if you will.
As it demonstrates, the House GOP and Donald Trump's continued attacks on our institutions and on our democracy, and the House GOP's complete inability to govern in a serious manner. as they're holding this hearing as we see just 2 days before a potential devastating government shutdown, and the fact that most Republican members on this committee didn't even bother to show up for the hearing this morning. Their own star witness said right here in this committee this morning that he doesn't even believe that there's enough evidence to meet the standards needed for impeachment. And in doing this, our colleagues across the aisle are making a mockery of this institution and of our Constitution, peddling the conspiracy theories that Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump themselves tried to get the American people to believe, and which Donald Trump's DOJ debunked. It's outrageous. So let's be clear about what this hearing actually is. It's an effort to undermine our democracy, to diminish Donald Trump's own 2 impeachments, his first impeachment for trying to illegally bribe a foreign government to help him with his campaign, and the second for a deadly insurrection in the halls of this Capitol after he asked his followers to tear through the halls of Congress, which they did with zip ties looking to execute the former vice president. And we know that Donald Trump has called for this impeachment inquiry because we have the direct evidence from his own social. You can see it right here. He says, impeach the bum. And we also know that he's been directly coordinating with members of this committee, as reported by the New York Times. Right here, a member of this committee has been briefing Donald Trump on this inquiry. We also know that if Donald Trump doesn't get his way, he wants his loyalists to shut down the government. How do we know that? Because he posted it right here on his social media. And his loyalists in this committee who are doing his bidding for him today retweeted it. And in fact, it actually says right here that the reason why they want to defund the government and impeach is because this is the last chance to defund these political prosecutions against me. So folks, this is not a serious inquiry. This is not a serious hearing. In fact, the witnesses here don't even believe there's enough evidence to impeach. Their own members don't even believe there's enough evidence to impeach. In fact, they refused to hold a vote on the floor of the House of Representatives because they didn't have enough Republican members who would vote for it. That's why we're here today. It's outrageous. So what is this hearing actually about? It's a campaign strategy. It's a misuse of official resources. It is this committee and loyalists of Donald Trump doing his bidding to bolster his chances of winning back the White House and securing their majority in the next election. And in the process, to diminish the name of impeachment, which is enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, which we take an oath to uphold, and to make Donald Trump's crimes, including his 2 impeachments and his 91 criminal indictment counts, look like they're not serious crimes. When you think about it, it's chilling. It's truly chilling. It's another attack on our democracy and our institutions. It's another attack on fair and free elections and the use of this committee to try to carry it out. So I just want to say, I think it's obvious who the grand puppet master is here. He tweeted about it on his own social, and we see the long arm, but little hands, of Mr. Donald Trump, whose fingerprints are all over this hearing and this sham impeachment. But we know that the American people are smart, that they're not going to be fooled by what's happening here today, and especially as they shut the government down in 2 days with catastrophic impacts for our communities.
Oh, goodness. What would happen if you didn't have the government there to run your lives? This is what's amazing to me is the narrative, and they do this often, to where they say that the GOP is doing the bidding of Donald Trump. There's been no candidate, Democrat or Republican, that has been more despised by certain people in his party than Donald Trump. Donald Trump would be the last candidate that's able to get the entire GOP or get their entire political party on board because he's so polarizing. People in the Republican Party, a lot of them want to keep the status quo. So this lady's gimmick is, yeah, Donald Trump put him up to it because he posted something on Truth Social. This is all Donald Trump. He's using this to get reelected. Fascinating argument again, creativity at its finest. But this one right here took the cake. And I'm going to give it to you in two pieces. A lady by the name Jasmine Crockett, all right, Democrat representative. Several people, by the way, trying to make names for themselves on the Democrat side with this hearing, because a lot of them you've probably never even heard of these people. But I don't think I need to give you any context on this lady. I'm just going to let her lay it out for you.
On because he's got 91 counts pending right now. But I will tell you what the president has been guilty of. He has unfortunately been guilty of loving his child unconditionally, and that is the only evidence that they have brought forward. And honestly, I hope and pray that my parents love me half as much as he loves his child. Until they find some evidence, we need to get back to the people's work, which means keeping this government open so that people don't go hungry in the streets of the United States. And I will yield.
So, I mean, maybe I'm going out on a limb here, but it would not surprise me if her parents did not love her as much as Joe Biden loves his son, because, I mean, that's honestly obnoxious. I was having flashbacks to hot baddies of Birmingham there for a minute, which, by the way, I need to, in an upcoming podcast, give you a preview of that if you haven't seen it. But this is what they're acting like on the show. They're yelling, they're being very animated, and it's like, whoa, calm down. You're not going to get your message across. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. If you're acting like that on an issue where the evidence is right in your face, nobody's going to take you serious. It's different if you're talking about an issue where there is evidence, where everybody can see what's going on. Take yesterday, for example, the press conference, the Senate Judiciary Committee. Katie Britt, Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, those guys got up there and they gave their message with passion because everybody knows people are dying on the border and people are dying in this country because the border's open. But anyway, let's get back to Crockett because, again, I think she, in fact, stole the show, at least for Democrats.
President. But let me tell you something that was so disturbing as I walked in to this chamber today. As I prepared, I said, what is the crime? Because when you're talking about impeachment, you're talking about high crimes or misdemeanors. And I can't seem to find the crime. And honestly, no one has testified of what crime they believe the president of the United States has committed. But when we start talking about things that look like evidence, they want to act like they blind. They don't know what this is. These are our national secrets. Looks like in the shitter to me. This looks like more evidence of our national secrets, say on a stage at Mar-a-Lago. When we're talking about somebody that's committed high crimes, it's at least indictments. Let's say 32 counts related to unauthorized retention of national security secrets, 7 counts related to obstructing the investigation, 3 false statements, 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States, falsifying business records, conspiracy to defraud the United States, 2 counts related to efforts to obstruct the vote certification proceedings, 1 count of conspiracy to violate civil rights, 23 counts related to forgery or false document statements, 8 counts related to soliciting, and I could go on because he's got 91 counts pending right now. But I will tell you what the president has been guilty of. He has unfortunately been guilty of loving his child unconditionally, and that is the only evidence that they have brought forward. And honestly, I hope and pray that my parents love me half as much as he loves his child. Until they find some evidence, we need to get back to the people's work, which means keeping this government open so that people...
That's enough. Wow. Wow. Again, very unserious people trying to do a very serious job. The evidence is in front of you. It's not a sad, heartbreaking story about a crack-addicted son and the parents trying to help. This is about international corruption. It's about selling your country down the river. And it's amazing because these Democrats who live in the same country we do. The same country is being sold down the river. And it has been for administrations. It's not just Joe Biden. He just happens to be towards the top of the heap of corruption. It's why the Democrat Party never let Joe Biden win a primary. Their primaries are handpicked. If you're a Democrat and you vote in the primary, you're an idiot. There's no point. There hasn't been a point for a long time. Bernie Sanders supporters, there's no point in you voting. Bernie had all the support in the world. But guess what? He wasn't the handpicked one. Then the Democrats found themselves backed into a corner in 2020. They said, all right, we need somebody we can control. Who's that going to be? Somebody said Joe Biden. They're like, hey, you sure? Joe Biden's got a lot of baggage. Yeah, it'll be all right. He'll do whatever we say. Thus, you get Joe Biden. Joe Biden was not only handpicked in the Democrat primary, he was handpicked in the general election as well. And as you know, we are going to continue to be on the front lines of that. Not only here, but on the radio show as well. Even though we're not supposed to talk about it, it's what the media, that's what Washington, D.C. says, we're going to continue to hammer that point home. We are not going to give up until our elections are fixed and fair. I'm out of here. Till next time, see you, cuz.